Back to school is around the corner, so today we're going to work on some pretty little pencils. Let's get started by taking a chalk pencil and this Mexican beach pebble, and I'm going to outline what I would call a chunky pencil. So it's not going to be thin, it's going to be kind of bubbly looking. What's the best description I can kind of come up with? So it's going to be short and stubby, but chunky, kind of full and bubbly. Next, I'm going to take some Liquitex gesso and base coat the entire little pencil because these Mexican beach pebbles are very slick, and so this not only helps the color be nice and vibrant, but it also gives some grip for the paint when it's on a slippery surface. Now that I've got the base coat on there, I'm going to start bouncing around with the different colors. I'm going to start with this sun-kissed peach to create the wooden part of the pencil down by the lead. So I'm not worrying about the tip of the pencil and the lead that we'll show later. I'm just kind of filling in that top corner with the peach. And then I'm going to take this pink eraser and fill in the pink eraser on the top of the pencil. I'm going to bounce back to the sun-kissed peach again to make sure I have good coverage at the top of the pencil, and then I will go back and fill in the pink eraser on the top just to make sure we've got solid coverage. Nice vibrant colors. Now I'm going to take a black Posca paint pen and just create that pencil lead at the top of the pencil. You could use a black paintbrush with this, or you can use a paint pen if you feel like you have more control. Either way, it's a very simple kind of chunky triangle shape. Next, let's grab a bottle of silver paint and fill in the metal piece on the pencil. This is going to take a couple of coats to make sure it's nice and solid because the metallic sometimes needs those extra coats so it's nice and bold. So I'm going to start here and get the silver on there. Then while we're letting that dry, I'm going to get this Sunbeam paint, which is almost an exact match for a yellow pencil, and I'm going to fill in the body of the pencil. I'm starting with some squiggly lines that are what you see on a pencil after it's been sharpened. It's not an even line across, it's those nice little wavy lines. This yellow is also going to take maybe 2 or 3 coats to get a nice solid coverage. It is a multi-surface paint, so it's a little bit glossy of a finish, and it sometimes has better coverage than the regular matte finish, but I still added for sure 2 coats, and in some places on the yellow a 3rd coat to make sure it was solid. I'm going to go back and forth with the silver paint and the yellow paint, just making sure we've got nice solid coverage. And now is where the cute part comes in. I'm going to come back to that Liquitex gesso, and I'm going to create 3 little circles kind of up where the silver meets the yellow part of the pencil, and these are going to become little flowers. This helps since we're going to be going over multiple colors of paint, but I'm going to use this light pink, the lavender, and the pale yellow, and I'm going to color each one of my circles first with 1 coat of the matte paint. I'm going to let this first coat dry, and then I'm going to come back and add a 2nd layer of each of these pastel colors, and then while that paint is still wet, I'm going to take a fine line disposable eyeliner brush and a darker color. So a darker purple goes on the lavender, a darker pink on the light pink, and then a brighter yellow on the light yellow, and just kind of swirl it into the wet paint, and it gives the effect of flower petals. I'm also going to add some swirls of the Extreme Hologram glitter paint just to give a little sparkle in the center of the flowers. While the glitter paint is setting and drying, I'm going to take a green paint pen and create some leaves and little green curlicues off of the little bunch of flowers. This just adds more detail and really makes this a cute little design. Now I'm going to take a Posca PC1MR paint pen and outline the entire design just to give it some more definition. Now I'm going to take one of my new Uni Pin fine line pens and add some detail to the metal on the pencil and then the body of the pencil. These pens are super awesome for fine line details like the leaves, and I'm going to add some swirls to the flowers with them, and I'll put a link in the description if you're interested. I think I got 6 pens and they're all different sizes, but they're all fine liners, so they're really great. And of course, like any other design, you could play around with some different colors. You could do pastel, you could do metallic, you could even do glitter paint. That's one thing I ran out of time. I was thinking about my metallic watercolors also, but there's kind of endless possibilities of what you could do with this design. So let loose and have some fun with it. Welcome back. Today we're going to make a cute back to school design, as well as I'm going to show you some viewer submitted photos of their back to school designs. I'm starting out here by using a chalk pencil to line out the arch of a rainbow. This is eventually going to become a pencil, so I'm going to draw a little bit of a point here for the tip of the pencil, and then I'm going to take a damp paper towel to get rid of the extra lines on the side. So I'm also making room for the eraser and the little silver part on the pencil. I'm going to give this arch of the rainbow, just the arch, a little bit of a base coat of the Liquitex gesso because Santorini stones can be a little bit porous, so this helps kind of seal off the stone and will give our color a nice vibrant shine. I am going to use this Sunbeam Yellow to custom mix a pencil yellow by adding a dab of this apricot and then a dab of Liquitex gesso to make sure it's nice and solid. So I'm just going to mix this up and then add it to the rainbow. This was a design from last year and I saw it as sort of a scrapbook, a snapshot of a moment in time. I had no idea that it actually would still be relevant this year. So here's to a new school year of staying safe and staying healthy. I'm just going to continue to fill this yellow in until the entire piece of the pencil is filled in. I am going to stop towards the end here because I'm going to add a different color to represent the wood on the pencil. So I'm going to use this Sun-Kissed Peach to add the wood on the pencil tip before adding the lead. So just a little bit of color here, and then I'm also going to add some wavy lines with the yellow to signify kind of how the pencil looks when it's sharpened. Next, I'm going to take some silver paint for that little piece on the end of the pencil below the eraser, and I'm going to use horizontal strokes to kind of create that texture of the little bumps and lines that are in a real pencil. Then I'm going to take this pink eraser paint for exactly that. The pink eraser was the perfect paint color for the eraser on this pencil. Now let's take a peek at a couple of your designs. These two rocks were submitted by one of our most loyal viewers, Tabitha in Florida, and even better, her daughter also did a rock. Girl, your teacher is gonna love this rock. You did awesome. Now let's finish off this pencil with some detail. So I'm going to take a 7mm Posca paint pen to add the pencil lead, and then I'm going to outline the entire design with a Sakura Pigma fine line brush pen. Let's take a peek at another viewer design. This rock comes to us from KD in Western Washington. You rock and you rule. Now I'm going to add a second arch to our rainbow. Fill that in with some Liquitex gesso again to seal the Santorini and give a nice base for the color. And then we're going to take some Caribbean turquoise and fill that in with a couple of coats until it's nice and solid. This is one of my favorite colors, but it can be kind of finicky, especially if your paint's been sitting around for a while and it gets a little watery. So this one definitely needs a couple of coats so that the color is nice and solid and ready for the accent designs. before we finish off this design, let's take a look at one more viewer submitted photo. This one is from Minnie in San Diego. It's adorable, and some little kid is going to be so happy to find this. Can't have a teacher's gift without an apple on it, so we're going to take this Tule Art acrylic paint pen and add a heart-shaped apple. So just draw out a heart and color it in, and then I'm going to take a brown paint pen and a green paint pen to add a stem and leaves to this cute little apple. I'm also going to take a white paint pen to add this little accent to add the shine to the apple. Now coming back to that teal rainbow, we are going to add some taller lines on this. It's going to be a ruler. So we're going to start with the longer lines and then fill in a bunch of smaller lines in between them. So it makes a cute little ruler. Now I'm coming back through with that Sakura brush pen again to give an outline to the ruler so there's just a little extra definition. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with our heart-shaped apple. Just outline the whole thing, add a little accent line to the leaf, and give it a little bit of definition. It makes it stand out a little bit more once the sealer is on. Now I'm going to take a dotting tool and the rainbow colors and just fill in that white space between the pencil and the ruler. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink. And it just completes this design by filling in that white space. Don't think too hard about this part. It's just random dots to fill in that space. Embrace the imperfection. That's going to be our new phrase. This design is one of my favorites. We actually gifted it to my first grader's teacher and she loved it. Thank you so much to everyone that submitted their designs to share with us. And